Hi, everyone. This is Elizabeth Gonzalez, Chief Program and Strategy Officer here at the College Futures Foundation. I'm excited to welcome Brittany Davidson of the ADA Center, who is here to walk us through the center's new report, Holistic Student Support Technology in California Community Colleges. The ADA Center is an organization of higher education technology subject matter experts, practitioners, and researchers. They help higher education leaders adopt technology-related practices that support success and equity goals. They do so by partnering directly with states, institutions, and national organizations to provide practical research and technical assistance. Brittany oversees much of the organization's student success technology research and technical assistance. She has spent over 15 years working with hundreds of college and university leaders, state systems, education technology companies, and philanthropic organizations with the goal of improving student success and equity. And we are very privileged here at College Futures Foundation to have had a partnership with the ADA Center. So I want to just say, Brittany, bienvenida, welcome.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
So Brittany, why holistic student support technology? What's the purpose of this work?
Well, actually, the ADA Center has been working with California colleges on and off for about the past 7 years. And there's been a lot of learning and a lot of discussion about holistic student support. And quite frankly, a lot of frustration, because as we talk about holistic student support, you inevitably talk about how technology is enmeshed in the success or the struggles of that effort. And so in that work, we've had a lot of common questions come up. So things like, why is it that some of our really significant technology investments have not led to the gains in student success and equity that we would have hoped? And a lot of the reasons vary, but what we've seen is a lot of the underlying causes are kind of similar across a lot of our colleges. And we've heard from folks is also, why do these challenges, or how do they look a little bit different for California colleges, given the very specific California context? And then finally, what can we learn from what practitioners and leaders and the folks who are really on the ground doing implementation are currently using, and what they've done to address challenges that come with that? And so the purpose of the report, content-wise, was to address a lot of those questions. But I think a secondary piece of it was also to put the answers to those questions in a format that was really accessible to anyone who is not necessarily a CIO, right? As we've seen, I think particularly in the post-COVID era, before IT was very much in its own house, its own silo, and student success was in its own silo. But increasingly, we know to be a successful technology person, you have to understand a bit about student success and why that technology exists. And then similarly, if you're on the holistic student support side, really important to know enough to be dangerous, as we say, with technology. And so from a delivery standpoint, we really tried to design the report to be accessible to both of those folks.
Thank you. And that actually brings another question for me. There's so much great information in here to help demystify the world of student success technology. So can you give us a quick tour?
Sure, happy to. And you should be able to see my screen. This is on page 7. And one of the things that we did in the design of the report was allow people to, what we say, skip around to the best parts that seem most exciting for them. But just a quick summary of the sections. We start off with an overview of what does effective holistic student support technology actually even look like. There are a lot of vendor demos out there, and some of what they will show is real, and some of it is maybe still in progress, and some of it is maybe in the dream pipe. And so we actually looked at over 100 implementations of technologies on campus and can give an aspirational but realistic view visually of what you can do with that technology. Then we go into, well, what does the market landscape look like today in terms of vendors and products available? What does that look like in the California community college context specifically? And then we go into a little bit more of the nuts and bolts of the experience with that technology. So at a few California institutions, what are some case studies that really illustrate some of the most common challenges that California schools are facing with technology? And how can we make those really accessible and easy to understand for anyone reading the report, whether or not you have experience in IT? From there, we go into, well, we understand the challenges, we understand what it looks like, why are they happening? Because we have analysis of some of those root causes. And then finally, we like to end with something hopeful. So we do have some potential support levers and really clickable, usable resources at the end as well.
Great. So how do you think different audiences might use the content in the report?
I think there's a few different ways. So it's interesting. This report was originally designed for organizations who are looking to support California colleges in student success, but might not have had the IT background. As we've shared it with folks, we've seen also a lot of uptake from leaders at institutions who maybe just want to be able to have easier conversations with their IT staff and CIO about what some of those challenges are. So I think in that way, between leaders and IT, it can build that bridge between those two parties. I think another bridge we were trying to build was also between folks who are maybe at the district level or kind of a higher level, who want to understand a little bit more about what the experience is on the ground for people at colleges who are project managers over some of these technology efforts. We noticed there was somewhat of a gap sometimes about understanding what are the needs on the ground and what do we think people need. So I think bridging that gap as well is really, really useful. And then finally, I think there are a number of practitioners who increasingly are realizing that technology is coming into their day-to-day. They need to know how to use it, or at least need to know some of the reasons why behind it, or how to advocate for the things they need. And so this is also just a great 101 for anyone who wants to know a little bit more about student success technology to participate in some of those efforts on campus.
Brittany, I think that is so powerful, that really understanding that there are different audiences who will want different things, but fundamentally arrive together to ensure that this is really about student success. So congratulations. I think that's so powerful that there are different folks that will get a lot from this report. Thank you, Brittany, for all the good insight you offered in our conversation today. How can people get in touch with you about this report?
Well, Elizabeth, they're always welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn as Brittany Davidson, Brittney Davidson, or through email. I am Brittany@theadacenter.org.